Hello, everyone. Welcome to India AI Conversations. Today we have Dr. Avik Sarkar with us, who is a personality that doesn't need much introduction when it comes to India's AI data science ecosystem. But just to have a brief note about Avik, Avik is right now is a visiting professor, associate professor for data technology and public policy at Indian School of Business, and also an expert on big data and data science committee member with Artificial Intelligence Committee in UN, a member of AI Committee with International Standard, and many more. And his career journey is something very enviable, at the same time exciting, because he has previously worked with so many amazing organizations in so many different roles. He was previously the head of data analytics cell with Niti Aayog. A amazing responsibility. He has done tremendously well, and before that he worked with Accenture, IBM, Nokia, Siemens, and I think he had a short stint with NASA as well. So, Avik, this is amazing. Your profile is something familiar to most people in the industry. Most of us in the ecosystem, we are all are big admirers of your work. But so, my question is, can you tell how this journey happened? Which span across multiple sectors, from an academy. Now you are an academician, but you started in the industry, working with the government. So can you give us a brief overview of how your journey has been?
Yes, so thanks, Jibu, for inviting me and to India.ai. This is a portal that I think can do a lot for India, and also sending the message of what India is doing on the AI front to the entire world. So congratulations on this portal and for the collaboration with NASCOM and METI for doing this excellent job. So for my background particularly, so I spend a lot of time in the industry, and when we sort of grow up and we do our studies like bachelor's and masters, and then I did my PhD also in the area of statistics, data science, and stuff. You usually prepare yourself for a career in the industry because most of the academia and the courses that we do, we prepares us for career industry, and that's where I naturally went into after I finished my master's from IIT Bombay, and from after my PhD, and I spent about 15 years in the industry, various roles on data science, AI, data analytics. So these are the type of roles I was handling. But over time, I saw that I had an inclination on working on projects which have a social good implications. So even when you are in this corporates and the companies that I worked in, maybe it's IBM or an Accenture or Nokia, wherever I worked in, you would see that your client list will include clients that are in the private sectors because they are also serving someone else in a B2B scenario, or you can also serve the government. I found that I derived a lot more pleasure in working on the government projects. That was my finding. In my last corporate role with Accenture Consulting, when I was there, I was again in an analytics role, and this was based in Singapore. So a large part I was in the health and public services division at Accenture. It's a division, and about 80% of the projects that I was working on was with the government, and that how I think I got a very good training on using the data science skills in the government sector, because and I was very fortunate, I should tell, that I got my training in a country like Singapore, which is really pushing the edge of using data science, big data, and AI for improving government performance, for improving citizen delivery, for doing a lot of these things. And Singapore, as you know, is a country which has good amount of resources, both monetary resources and human resources. So they also can spend good on big data, AI, data science project. Usually data science projects are expensive, but Singapore government usually spends a lot in these projects, and some of them were like they were taking research directly from the research labs and trying to implement them there. And some of the implementations were really amazing. I think that's where a lot of my training on this sector came in. I also had a chance to work on some projects in Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia because we are serving the entire APAC region, but majority was with the Singapore government. So while I was with Singapore, I was with Accenture Consulting, working and on several projects there. I found this opportunity at INDIAai, which had just set up in 2015, around that time, after the Modi government came in the first time, and I saw there was an ad for an officer on special duty, and that was the first batch, the lateral hires who have been hired in the Indian government. And then I applied, and I got in. I was fortunate to be selected in Niti Aayog there. So that was a sort of the journey at Niti Aayog. And then since when I came into Niti Aayog, I realized that there is a lot that can be done in a country like India using things like data science or AI, and we are just scratching the surface of it. Given the social impact of the data science work that can be done, it can be just enormous of a country of this nature. And I felt like there is very little been done in India today, and that's why I decided that I want to spend the next few years of my life on working on data science for social good. So that's one of the sectors where I am currently devoted quite a lot. And when I also moved to Indian School of Business, that's one of the area which I continue to work on, which is the intersection of public policy and data science. So that's how it
I
began.
think
Thanks.
your story is very fascinating. I mean, I agree with you. Your points on Singapore. Singapore has been doing some phenomenal work, right? I mean, especially being a small country also gives them that advantage. And I think I've been following some of the works of Mr. Kundu and his team. They worked with some of the government initiatives in Singapore, and it's a good model we can follow as well. And it's quite fascinating that, like you mentioned, you came into Niti Aayog at a time when we were, as a country, or generally we were looking at this potential of data and AI and analytics into how we can incorporate that into governance. And I think during your time only the strategy report for national strategy for AI was devised by Niti Aayog. So how was your experience working with Niti Aayog and your involvement in these projects?
Yes, so at Niti Aayog, the AI strategy work was one of the work which I understand India AI is very interested in, but it's also I was heading the data analytics cell as a unit. So it was sort of a horizontal role at Niti Aayog, where Niti Aayog is divided into verticals, be it the health vertical, the education vertical, the PPP vertical, public-private partnership or education, and range of other things. And it's like providing support, technical support to each of these verticals was my core responsibility. So when I talk about support, it's like they are already using data in decision making, because of a lot of the policy decisions and governance decisions has to be based on data. But can you then bring in the data analytics and data science factor also in this, by which it will help you in making many more decisions based on data, and not just maybe looking at the data manually, but then there is some analysis been done. So that's one of the key aspects that we came in. So simple things like, say, drill down charts, or plotting multiple variables together and telling you how the policy question has to be answered. So say I worked a lot on, say, health, particularly the malnutrition sector. So malnutrition, if you look into, say, a state has to allocate certain budgets for malnutrition to certain districts. How do they prioritize these districts? So you take the malnutrition indicators, which are the stunting, the wasting, the underweight that is there, but then you also take the population of the children below the age 5 into the consideration. Now, all this can be done, like what you are doing basically is that you are taking a decision based on four variables. Taking decision on four variables are very difficult for a human mind to do. But once these things are there in a chart, then the decision making becomes much easier for the state government. So a large amount of time was helping develop tools which would help the state government and the officials and Niti Aayog to make the decision. The other aspect is that we have worked on very deeply was the aspect of energy. Energy is an area of deep concern for the country, and energy security is also one of the very key concerns. So long-term energy need forecasting is a very important aspect. So when we talk about long-term, when I was at Niti Aayog, say sitting in 2018, we were planning and doing modeling of what the energy needs of the country will be for say 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050. So till 2050, we are thinking what the energy need of the country will be. And this is not only the fuel need, like for the cars, but also electricity need, because a power plant has to be planned, commissioned, and then it reaches its full potential. So if you plan now, then in 5 years later, maybe the plant will produce enough electricity to meet the resource needs. And as we as a country are also becoming more prosperous, our energy needs will be higher. So more people will want car, more people will want air condition, more people will want refrigerator. So these are the energy consuming ones. I'm not talking of fans and lights because those consume comparatively less electricity as compared to say car or a AC or a fridge. They
Right.
consume much more electricity. So this demand and this number of usage will increase over time. And we as a nation has to be prepared maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, because budget has to be allocated, place has to be found. So this is very, very fascinating sort of analytics, I will say, for the long-term planning and the future of the country. So this was something, and there are very specific models that are used for such long-term modeling. And our team worked on it for about 1 to 2 years to come up with various scenarios to do that. So these were a lot of very interesting work that I got also exposed to where I was in Niti Aayog. At that time, now coming to AI, at that time, artificial intelligence was also becoming very, very hot on the topic. And around that time, around 2017, some of the countries have also started coming up with an AI strategy. For India, it knew that they are doing pretty decently on artificial intelligence because there is research from the IITs that was there. But we also saw that there is potential to use it in several sectors. So Niti Aayog, as the economic think tank of the country, then took up the ownership about how AI can play a crucial role in India's growth in the next 10, 20 years. So the strategy paper that we worked on as a team at Niti Aayog, and this was not a personal effort, it was a team of about 4 or 5 people that were involved there. We worked on it for about 9 months, 6 to 9 months, and it also included a lot of consultation because see, all the information was not available to all of us in this 5 or 6 months. Maybe we reached a lot to the industry, a lot of the startups we had discussion with a lot of the startups, the big tech companies to understand what they are doing and also understand the future roadmap and the future potential of AI was also something that we mapped into. And then from the economic growth perspective, we tried to find out which would be the key sectors that we need to focus in. Because around that time, there were many other work also that was being done by other ministries. The Department of Science and Technology came up with a document on cyber physical system a year earlier in 2017. The Niti Aayog strategy paper came out in June 2018, and in around March, April 2018, DPIIT, it was DIPP at that time, Department of Promotion for Trade and Internal Trade, also came up with a list of areas there where AI can impact, and that includes about 15 areas. So we felt from the economic growth perspective and taking all citizens towards a certain level of likelihood, there will be 5 sectors that the strategy should focus on, and that were as per the needs of the country. It was healthcare, agriculture, education, mobility, and smart cities. Again, I think there are other, and then we also had a lot of discussion about whether some other sectors, as you will think, should be included, should have been there or not, like say finance, manufacturing. There
Actually.
are also some of the obvious choices that came in very close. But I think from a strategy perspective, we felt the market will anyway take a lead there. And the government push was particularly required in these five sectors because there is not much happening on these sectors particularly.
I think one important point with the strategy paper is it's created that idea AI for all, right? That which then translated into many things, like you mentioned that you are interested into empowerment, AI for empowerment, tools for empowerment, and I think the paper played a key role in establishing that as an idea, right, in India.
Yes, AI for all was a very interesting concept. And what we felt was India can become the AI garage of the world because we understood that even when India, at that time, when we were working on this strategy paper, India had already reached the peak in the IT revolution. But
Hmm.
if you see in IT revolution, the major languages and frameworks that was created, maybe say C, C++, Java, if I just name the major tools around that time, none of them were developed in India. But
Hmm.
we, as users and early learners of this, because of our very good STEM education in India and English language education, we could take advantage of this ecosystem and we could deliver very well on top of this and be the IT um, go-to place for IT work in the entire world. And still now you see the major Indian companies that are there, the majority of their work is still in the IT sector. I think we wanted to see how if we can take that success story and then transition into AI,
Hmm.
and that was the whole objective when we talk about the AI for all and the AI garage. Because we also feel that AI is will have a as compared to IT. When you see our client base has been primarily been in the US and the Europe West, we feel that as AI, there will be a lot of application also say in Latin America and Africa
Hmm.
on top of say Europe and the US. And that is where there is also opportunity for a country like India, which can develop AI solution at very, very low cost as compared to say a similar solution being developed in the US or Europe. So
Hmm.
that's the advantage that we felt as a country we always had, and this is something that we wanted to take advantage on and build upon that.
And I also want to add, like, we also have unique, because of our size of the country and the demography, different kind of geographical conditions. We have all these challenges we had to face, which can then be translated into many parts of the world as well. I think that's something even the Prime Minister mentioned in the Race 2020 summit, how we will make AI products for, especially for the global south.
Yes, yes. So there are. So what you're telling is correct to a large extent.
Hmm.
A lot of the process and the learning can happen based on India because if you are say doing say facial recognition
Hmm. Hmm.
or say if you're doing self-driving car in the Indian scenario, you are facing a very complex environment that you are modeling your AI on.
Right.
But you have to do it completely on the Indian data
Right.
to work in India. Now, if you take this solution to say Latin America and Brazil, then the same solution, either it's a facial recognition solution or the self-driving car, has to be retrained
Hmm.
on the data from that scenario. So we can already take advantage of some of the existing technology like say transfer learning. So we can do the first level of learning based on the data set here. But unlike say IT, where you can take a application completely and transform it into a new geography, you will have to still spend fair amount of time in customizing it and training it there. So even though the learning process is something that we can learn, it's not so simple like IT. But I think given the talent that we have in India, I think this is something that we would like to we can embark upon and we can do as a nation that is there. And for that, I think we also need to democratize AI
Hmm.
beyond level because currently, if you see AI is more in the forte of the niche institutes particularly the IITs, the IISCs, and the NITs. So they are primarily doing most of the leading publications in AI. So if you see the amount of students and the faculties in these institutions are very small. The
Hmm.
IT revolution also, if you had relied on just the IITs and the IISCs to take care of the IT revolution, maybe the IT revolution wouldn't have happened. Because of institutes and the large scale training of IT that took place in the 90s and the 2000s, we saw it really getting democratized. Now I think we have a need to democratize AI, data science, and machine learning to the masses. So people with good understanding of maths and STEM education need to pick up these skills, and that is a very very crucial role that India has to do. And this is something that has to be done in the next 5 or 10 years, because otherwise we'll lose out to the competition with some of the European countries, the Western European countries, or China, because they are also a lot of the nations like South Korea,
Hmm.
Singapore, China. They also have very focused programs on skilling their youth, because everyone understands that they have to capture the world market in AI. So
Hmm.
everyone wants to train, and you need large number of people who understand and can work hands-on on AI. So everyone has a skilling program, in India has a future skills program,
Yeah.
and a large number of skilling programs that are there. Many other nations also has skilling programs around that that needs to be done in a full-blown mode to take advantage of that.
So you one thing, I mean, now being being an academician, one thing we also had discussed in our previous conversation is beyond how we can get AI, AI projects and students beyond IITs and ISCs. So what can we do? How can we promote this? How can we translate or democratize this learning and we how by but without losing the quality? Because one thing we regularly hear from the industry and all, yeah, there are so many engineering colleges across the country, but many companies has to retrain these people after hiring, which is also itself a costly affair. So how can we ensure this can be done in a large scale, the AI courses, in academia, outside the IITs, but without dropping any quality? How can we ensure that?
Yeah, so today the market is very good
Hmm.
for courses, because see, a lot of the engineering colleges might only provide you very little exposure to AI and data science and machine learning, but then there are a lot of courses outside in the market which are sort of executive education courses where students can learn that. At Indian School of Business, where I am based, we have an institute for data science, and in one of the things in a lot of these AI courses and data science courses you require is that you need to understand the technical side, but you also need to understand the business side.
Hmm.
And because you will go and have to understand the business and deliver on top of that business how you will build the data science. So for me, I can only do a AI and data science application if I understand the domain, be it healthcare or agriculture or manufacturing. So I think at ISB, the Advanced Management Program in Business Analytics has a very good mix of the data science components, where we teach the basic statistics, the basic probability, then machine learning, data mining, the AI, and the deep learning aspect, but also the application into industry is also there. And this also blends it very well. I think a lot of the courses that I see outside in the market, I think they focus more on the technical bit only without the business understanding. I think that is a must for getting the students or the candidate job ready and be ready for the data science market. I think that is one of the very crucial component that is there. And if as more upcoming courses are coming, I think there can be a very good opportunity there. And I think you sitting in India.ai, I think you can also do a lot of this sectoral AI and data science skilling or say roundtable or discussion. Because see, if I might know how to do image recognition, but where can I use image recognition in the manufacturing industry? Where can I use in the retail industry? I need to understand the business dynamics of that industry to
Mhm.
only deliver that. And if someone is coming in at say 5 years or 10 years of experience in that industry, the industry people will expect them to understand and know them so that they can deliver, rather than teaching them those basic stuff. So I think the mix of business skills along with the technical data science AI skill is very important to prosper and to excel in the market today.
So domain expertise is one thing that needed to be added into this AI analytics skill as well. So
Yes, I think that is very important there. So there are various models that people have. Like say, I studied data science maybe long back,
Mhm.
about more than 20 years back in at IIT. That was why when my first experience with data science happened. So we had a year-long capstone project, and
Mhm.
I did my capstone project on text mining at that time. And that was my exposure, like how I can use that to a domain of interest.
Mhm.
So I was doing text classification at that time of news articles to for a particular purpose. So there are various models that are there. So I was in a full-time course. I could afford that time to gain that industry experience. But if you are in an executive course, then I think building in some of those elements will be very helpful in the course for that course to be successful and for the students to get full advantage of that outcome also.
So one more one thing we mentioned how this translating this learning into products or like you mentioned in the business angle, but at the same time you discussed earlier how we can impact the country's growth and empower people. So what are the next steps? We have a policy in space, we have some work happening, we have laid the foundation, but how can we ensure that this technology, this new this like democratization of AI, how can I ensure these things will end up bringing more inclusive development of India? I want to bring that inclusiveness, reaching every corner of India rather than limited to cities. Even now, if you look, there are many schools with AI in curriculum, but that's limited to big cities, right? Like you mentioned, some programs are limited to IIT. So but from a development perspective, from a economic development perspective, how we can ensure AI will bring an inclusive development?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I think as the Niti Aayog's policy paper, strategy paper also highlighted, the key areas, healthcare, agriculture, education. These are very basic areas
Right.
and very fundamental areas. And
Mhm.
if you see today, there are more than 100 plus startups which
Mhm.
are operating in the space of agri-tech and health tech. So they are using agriculture, AI in agriculture or AI in healthcare. So there are a range of startups, like you say Cropin is one
Mhm.
of them, which is providing farm level advisory. Versal Labs is there. Then there is SatSure, and a range of other ones which are providing field level advisory, where state governments are tying up with them and providing services to the end farmer, because often the farmer on the ground who is doing and yielding the crop might not have the potential to pay, but these services have been taken by the state governments, and then these services are provided to the people on the ground. So there's a lot happening there. On the health tech also, there are a lot of excellent examples that you will see where Apollo clinics are also operating in that space. You have companies like INDIAai, which is providing screening there. Then you have SigTuple there, then AI Health Highway, and a range of health AI companies which are looking at various health aspects and trying to reach the last mile where doctors might not be available, but there is some sort of solution that is there that can help the people on the ground. And a large number of these applications are also available in the local languages. So if
Mhm.
you we see that usually internet and the language that we are also conversing is English. Now, if we look at English, we are only looking at say 300 million people out of 1.3 billion who understands this English. 1.3 or 1.4 billion, it might be 1.4 because we didn't have the latest census this year. Might be only talking English, but there is a large part, about a billion plus population, who do not speak or interact in English
Mhm.
as a primary language. So we also have to reach out to that aspect and citizens. So there is phenomenal work that is happening in agriculture and healthcare in India. Education is also growing quite a lot, but I think it's not as much as agriculture and health AI. Education is more on the lower side. But what is really interesting is also the focus on language technologies, because if we have to reach to the masses, we always cannot rely on human translators to translate the content into Indian languages. And there are about 22 official languages, but if you go into all the languages, there is even more. So language technologies is a very crucial thing, and it's very important that there is a lot of work that has been happening on this. METI has been leading the charge for the last 20-30 years on developing the language technology. But recently, what AI for Bharat has come
Yeah.
up with IIT Madras is a phenomenal work, because till this time we were talking about data sets for languages in Indian languages, which were in thousands. Now we are talking about data sets in Indian languages, which are in millions. And that just brings you that now the accuracy of the algorithms, it might be the same algorithms that were previously giving you 60%, 70% accuracy. It will now go up to like 80%, 90% accuracy. And over time, we can rely on automated machine translation. So if we are speaking this, automated translation machine can translate it into say Odia or say Punjabi or Hindi or anything of that nature. So that is very, very important, because then all this then it will bring in the real revolution in edtech also. Today, edtech is also limited to the potential of the trainer. The
Mhm.
trainer has to speak those languages, otherwise that is lost. If the trainers can maximum do it once in English and once in Hindi, but cannot do it in 5 languages. It's difficult to find person who speaks 5 Indian languages. But with this language technology, I think this edtech will also have the revolution. I think edtech will revolutionize once the language technology will be there, because we have a lot of content, both from say government platforms like SWAM and NPTEL, and also the private players like Byju's and Akash, and a lot of the other players are also creating a lot of online content, Vedantu, Upgrade, and many of them. But we'll see the revolution only when this language technology is revolutionized and there's a breakthrough in there. So all this has been done to a large extent for European languages, because their million plus size corpus for training was available for many years. But now we are seeing that in India with the first step for AI for Bharat. But I think this will go on further.
I think that it's a brilliant work done by Professor Pratyush and Mitesh with AI for Bharat and many more.
Yes,
I think the Samantar used in the pilot project done by Supreme Court is a good example. I think it's backed by AI for Bharat, the language translation tool.
yes.
So I know we are running out of time, so I have a final question to you. What is your advice for students and entrepreneurs looking to enter AI space and data space, or who have started their journey? What will be your advice for them?
So I think for students, and I keep telling this to all the students that I meet. I think India, if you are thinking in terms of jobs, you are very limited. Think in terms of opportunities and how you can make a change in people's life. And when you think from that perspective, the entrepreneurship opportunities is also enormous in India. So a big thing that is also required is that in India, the students are still in that mindset of jobs. If once they move from that mindset of jobs to entrepreneurship, I think many of the startups will also be there, because you see the best people who are coming out of the top institutes in India, they are all entering the job market. Instead of the job market, if they all start their own startup, then many more
Hmm.
problems of India will be solved. So from that's a different angle from the AI, because innovation has not been in our blood for a very long time, because we always, since the Britishers came in, we always went on to rote learning. And with things like Atal Innovation Mission and a lot of this break and make and break type of things, the Atal Tinkering Labs and Atal Incubation Centers, a lot of this is changing. Now students are going into a mindset that you can make mistakes, you can fail, but you are still not doomed for life.
Mhm.
That is the mindset you have to be in. Like if you are in the Silicon Valley in the US, you basically flaunt that you had a failed startup. Here in India, failed startup is not seen in very good sense, because it seems like it's an end of your life if you have a failed startup. I think that mindset, when it will grow, when it goes away, you will see a lot more youth coming into the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and many more innovative problems being solved, because we need a lot more innovation. We cannot just rely on a few IBM or Accenture or Google and Facebook, a handful of 10 or 20 companies to
True.
solve all Indian problems. You need people from the villages to innovate, people who have seen the ground. People in these big tech companies, they have not seen the ground reality. They are used to sitting like me in AC offices in big metro cities. We don't have
Right.
a real view of the problems on the ground. We need people from the ground to solve the ground problems, and for that, democratization of technology and more people entering entrepreneurship is very important. STEM education is very important, but over the time, data science and AI is becoming commoditized. So even if you do not know programming, but you know how to structure
Mhm.
your thoughts in a good manner, you can still build apps, and you can still build data science and AI programs. So that is something more of an evolution that will happen there. Like if you look at say 30 years back, the
Mhm.
only way you could do coding was by coding in say Java
Right,
or C.
right, right.
Today, Python is lot easier than any of those coding. So that will become simplified. It's just a matter of time. Technology will be there. Pre-built models will be there that you can take as a base and build upon that. So technology will make life easier, but you should take the step towards entrepreneurship and solving the societal problems that will not only open doors for you in India, but also in the rest of the world.
I think I like the message you mentioned. People, people from grassroots should identify the problem and solve them. And AI technologies like AI will enable them to solve them. It's a great message to have for this conversation. And thank you very much, Professor Avik Sarkar, for joining us and having this great conversation with us.